The Beach FM Business Lunch Show, brought to you by PlaceMakers Kapiti Horowhenua. Together we're building New Zealand.
Welcome back to the Business Lunch Show on Beach FM 106.3. It's been about a month since we talked to him, so let's welcome back Districtwide Councillor for the Kapiti Coast District Council. It is Gwynn Compton. G'day, mate.
Kia ora, Damian.
How are you doing at this time?
Oh, good. Keeping busy. Sort of glad we're south of the Bombay Hills rather than north of it at the moment.
Me usually, mate. Me usually. Since we caught up, 21st of July, what a crazy 4 weeks that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I think like 4 weeks ago, I don't think anyone really thought we'd end up back in sort of this partial lockdown situation. I guess we always knew it was a risk when we were picking up cases and managed isolation at the border, but this obviously illustrates, how important it is to get all those procedures and protections right at the border to make sure that we can get back to being in a little sort of COVID-free corner of the world.
Absolutely. We were talking so confidently about the new normal and looking around, and it was kind of business as usual without even thought of, we're just been through a pandemic. And now it's back. We're in level 2. But how's the feeling been around the council? How's the feeling been around the people that you've been dealing with?
I think it is a very surreal feeling, sort of, especially when, like you said, looking back to where we were a month ago, sort of we had a briefing yesterday, which was an update on where planning's at in terms of Council's COVID-19 recovery plan. So that's all about helping get the economy restarted and all those sort of things. And it's sort of an odd conversation to feeling like you're having it, because obviously here we are waiting to see if we've got this new outbreak under control. But obviously you still have to plan for what the recovery phase looks like. So it's still, a good conversation to have. But it's just all the little things like going back into social distancing in the council chamber, making sure we've got the QR codes to scan in at all the entrances to council buildings. So all those things. It's a really, really odd feeling to feel sort of back to where we were back in April and May.
Absolutely. Hey, we saw a shift post, I bracket this, post COVID-19, the season 1, where it was about recovery. It was about getting the economic environment, boosted again. But again, we're back into it, and wage subsidies, mortgage holidays. How is that is it going to be a balance now of maintaining and still progression, or is the progression the recovery, if you will, going to take a backward step?
I think this is the sort of this is hinting at the worst case scenario that Treasury was looking at when they were looking at the modelling behind this, which is they're saying the best case scenario is you have the one lockdown, which is a big dip and a big recovery, and then it takes a couple of years to get back to where you were pre-COVID. They're saying the worst case scenario is that you come in and out of multiple lockdowns, and that's obviously hugely disruptive for businesses. And I mean, this is obviously the first instance of that happening, but you sort of, the worry is that you have this happen again and again, and that makes it hugely difficult for businesses to plan ahead in terms of their hiring and investment decisions, and it makes it hard for everyday people to make decisions about what they want to do, whether they're going to go on holiday, whether they're going to move house, whether they're going to buy a new car, whether they're going to invest in renovations and all those things. So people, it just adds to that uncertainty that is going to, push out the economic recovery a bit longer.
Do you think after season 1 that we did set ourselves up better for this? Did we learn some lessons that maybe, we can continue life without contact, online orders, contactless delivery, shop online more? Did we learn? Do you think we're set up for worst case scenario this time around?
I think we're better prepared than last time. I think the issues that we've seen over the last few weeks in terms of testing and those sorts of things at the border city, so probably some lessons that needed to be learned from last time around weren't necessarily learned, and I guess that goes back to, success isn't necessarily a great teacher of to get things changed. I think in terms of society more broadly, we got an update from the regional land transport plan yesterday at council, and they were saying that patronage numbers on the trains were down around 70 or 80%, and this is for the Kapiti line compared to pre-COVID, and that's sort of evidence for them of more people working from home. So there's definitely a shift in terms of how people are choosing to work. You certainly notice that if you've ordered anything online, there's slightly longer wait times than that because so many other people are doing it. So we are seeing shifts. I guess the question is, if once you get this outbreak under control, is how much do we sort of go back to normal? Apparently, train patronage numbers are up to about 90% prior to this season 2 of COVID. So I guess a lot of people were starting to gravitate back to where we were before. And one of the sort of big lessons that came out of the Chinese experience with COVID-19 is you had a massive shift to online channels. So people ordering all their groceries online, people ordering all the restaurant food being delivered to them. You had this huge fundamental shift away from bricks and mortar retail into home delivery models over there. Now it's a bit different, obviously, a highly urbanised society, much more compact cities for China, but a lot of those lessons I think will start to play out here, especially if we do keep going in and out of lockdowns, and businesses will just start to permanently pivot towards that online model.
Is anything to do with the trains? I know you're a big advocate on rail commute. Is anything to do? Is it the distance or working from home, or is it people just not wanting to sit next to a random on the train during a pandemic?
I think it's a combination of things. I think you're right. There'll be people who will be reluctant to be sitting next to people they don't know on the trains going in, and it's obviously quite difficult to socially distance when you're hurtling into Wellington for an hour on a couple of tons worth of steel like that. But a lot of businesses in Wellington and government departments have actually instructed people to work from home if they're able to. And that's my wife. She works for Kiwibank, and they've been told under level 2 to work from home. So she was only going in maybe 3 days a week prior to this. Yeah. So it's not a big change for her. And she would argue that she gets more done at home anyway. But so you're seeing a lot of people, as at least prior to this, we were embracing that opportunity to spend a couple more days working from home. And I guess that's the big question, is if you have government departments or private businesses in Wellington saying, well, actually, we don't need the same physical footprints in the CBD because people are working from home, then that's obviously going to push more people out to here, which is, good for our local economy.
Absolutely. More coffees and donuts sold for sure. Hey, we've seen this COVID season 2 affect the election. So we've been pushed out to October 17th. How does that affect, how does anything like this affect council on a local basis?
I guess, well, from our perspective, we do have a by-election that's underway for the Waikanae Community Board, but we're sort of fortunate in that where we do everything by postal voting. So it would have an impact on the sort of face-to-face campaigning for candidates will do for that. I guess from council's perspective, it just adds an extra month before we know what the lay of the land is going to be, or potentially will be, in terms of who we're dealing with down the road in Wellington. But it also gives us another month to get in the ears of candidates and parties to, make them aware of local issues and things that we want them to help us out on. I got a big win in the last month where the National Party announced that if they were elected to government, they would fund the electrification and double tracking up to Otaki. So that was a big win. Labor hasn't quite come to the party on that yet, but they're sort of tracking towards having hybrid trains or something to replace the capital connection and add extra services there. So it's stuff like that where you just get that extra bit of time to get in candidates' ears and that sort of thing and build those relationships. And that's what really becomes valuable when we get into the next term of Parliament. Absolutely.
Hey, mate, I won't take up too much more of your time, but what else are you working on at the moment? What should people be aware of?
Well, there's a couple of big things that are kicking around. There's obviously the Kapiti Island Gateway. So the council received $2 million in funding from the government's Shovel Ready Fund, and we're still working through the financial side of it from council's perspective and more community engagement. So we haven't made a final decision in terms of whether that's going to be green lit or not, but that's still ongoing. And I guess the key point to bear in mind there is that there's no rush to get it done. Shane Jones, the minister in charge of that, has said there's 12 months before you have to have shovels in the ground. So there's still time to work on that and assess whether we do go ahead with that. And then the other big thing that we had dropped on the region a couple of weeks ago was this rumour that Kapiti Airport might be closing or being sold off. And so I met with representatives of the owners last Thursday, and they're not selling at this point. They've come down here, they're saying they're open to any and all discussions about it. And I guess I'd say to people is that actually that's a really good thing for us. So there's, all options are on the table from our perspective, but we also have to be really realistic about it as well, because I know a lot of people are saying that council should buy the airport, but we're talking tens of millions of dollars. And David Parker last Monday at a Labor Party meeting, he ruled out the government getting involved in it. So then that's one major avenue of a funding partner gone. So if you're talking tens of millions of dollars, could you crowdfund it from the community? I'd suggest possibly not. I mean, it took 10 years to raise the money to build the Performing Arts Centre, so that sort of gives you an indication that that was $10 million. So, that's an indication of the sort of scale of the challenge here. It's not to say it's not doable in some way, but we have to go into any of this with eyes wide open. And any decision is going to, be a while off, because there's a whole lot of things that would have to be triggered, district plan changes. There'd be discussions of iwi, given that originally it was iwi land that was acquired under the Public Works Act, and even though it has gone into private hands, there's some questions around that would need to be resolved. So, there's a lot of water to travel under the bridge in that. But I'd really encourage people just to, keep an open mind about it, and we'll see where the discussions go over the coming months.
Big talks, definitely big things. Well, mate, thank you so much for joining me to talk. It's always good to catch up. Go well, keep doing good things.
You too, my pleasure.